In the Romanian administrative district of Buzău, near the town of Berca, there is a geological and botanical nature reserve which is exceptional in its form. As early as 1924, the 30 square kilometre area was declared a nature reserve. It is the landscape of the Mud Volcanoes, a desolate and unusual natural phenomenon which was first discovered here during a search for oil. A spectacular area with this natural phenomenon which the Frenchman Cogna once noticed while prospecting for such oil reserves in this region. The mud volcanoes are not visible from a distance because their ejections look like dried clay. It is only within the vicinity that the dried paths of the sludge can be seen, which were formed here through thousands of years of seepage. In dry weather, visitors to the area still tend to move around in a carefree manner, as there is no immediately visible activity. But the further one progresses, the more striking the terrain becomes. The grooves become wider and deeper, and the terrain seems like it has been ploughed by a giant. Although the sludge from the volcanoes is black clay, the salt contained in the sludge dries, crystallizes, and colors the ground in bright glittering hues. The dried mud on the plateaus prevents vegetation and makes them appear barren. It is not surprising that this area became the source of many legends, one of which relates a time when hawks abounded on the land. Here we had the most beautiful cattle and the best pastures. But the people who sought the cattle and pastures chased the hawks into the underground, where they have lived ever since. To take revenge on the people, they made mud holes to collect the pure, clean water with which to tempt the folk. And if humans or animals were to try to drink it, it would vanish straight down. The landscape is unique, with flora and fauna not found elsewhere in Romania. On the edge of the muddy areas and in the dry drainage grooves, hardy and rare shrubs grow, and scorpions and termites feel at home. Alexandru Odubescu described the muddy volcanoes as mouths of hell in 1874. The muddy ice-cold sludge, blacker than fog, boils and bubbles underground, and then the trough spurts out onto the estuaries that gouge out everything around this valley without, with no drainage. The sludge that silently flowed down the hills dried in the wind and covered the entire valley floor with its sediments. But the formation of mud volcanoes has little in common with a typical volcano and hot lava. The bubbling is the only similarity. It is cold volcanism. Volcanoes are created by gases that rise from a depth of about 3,000 meters through layers of water and clay. After being ejected onto the Earth's surface, the mud dries and forms structures that resemble a volcano. Around these mud volcanoes, crusts of salt form during dry periods, which are completely free of vegetation. The constant small gas eruptions underground continue to arrive at the surface, forming cold mounds of mud. And the mixture of clay and water that is ejected out of the earth drains off. The constant mud eruptions look like the Earth is spewing out volumes of dirt, with every conical hill appearing like a small volcano with its own crater. By the way, it is assumed that most mud volcanoes lie on the seabed, an idea supported by sonar measurements. Berca's mud volcanoes can be up to several meters high, and so they're bubbling mud craters. The lunar landscape is divided into two regions, areas of the small and the large mud volcanoes. A hiking trail through this area is, without question, a deeply impressive experience, but dry weather is a prerequisite. When wet, the sludge soon turns to a viscous mass that sticks to everything and makes walking on it almost impossible. The well-camouflaged, bubbling crater landscape of Romania is rightly considered a natural wonder of the Earth.